we're going on getting you the top voices from Corridors of Power as well as India Inc. right here on ET Now. Here's another big voice joining us. It is the top boss of ITC, Sanjiv Puri, but he's joining us today as a senior member of the CII. Mr. Puri, it's always a pleasure talking to you. Thank you so much for taking the time out and giving us this exclusive interview here on ET Now. The stock markets have certainly given a thumbs up to union budget. I guess they like the policy stability. They've not rocked the boat. There's an expenditure hike, Capex being increased by 35%. Let's begin with your opening comments on Union Budget 2022.
Yeah. First of all, thank you, Nayantara, for having me on the show. I think certainly it's a very futuristic budget that reflects consistency in vision and strategy. And it addresses all the critical challenges of the economy, that of creating livelihood, improving farmer incomes by investments in agriculture, dealing with the issues of climate resilience, and also enhancing competitiveness of the economy and preparing it for the next phase of growth. And really the things to call out there would be the sharp increase in infrastructure expenditure, which is not only going to create jobs immediately and therefore lead it into enhanced consumption and in turn crowd in private investments, because all the macros for private investments are very favorable, better earnings, better corporate balance sheets, lower income tax rates. The moment capacity utilization moves up, investment is likely to happen. And then infrastructure will also enhance competitiveness of the economy. The other big call out here is the focus on the digital economy. I mean, there is a multi-dimensional focus on creating a digital ecosystem, again, which is going to lead to competitiveness of the economy. And of course, on agriculture, there is continued focus. And this time, there is a focus on bringing the state-of-the-art technology through the digital interventions in agriculture, creating mechanisms for the private sector, agri-tech players, the FPOs, all to come together and bring the benefits of digital technology, bring the benefits of agri R&D to create a much more competitive agri value chain. So plenty of positives, and I believe all this augurs well for the economy and is going to place us very well for the next trajectory of growth.
Mr. Puri, I wanted to also ask you as far as the rural economy goes, because, you really know and have the pulse of what's happening on ground. Just a few weeks ago, it was the HUL chairperson, Sanjiv Mehta, right, who flagged off that there is there's a degrowth in the rural economy. Today, whatever has been announced in the union budget, can it not just arrest that, but reverse that, so we start seeing a growth in the rural economy, maybe as early as next financial year?
Well, if you look at the rural economy, there are really two facets to it. One is based on the agriculture value chains and the interventions taken for the agri value chains, which I just alluded to, along with many other interventions like in using biomass for fuels and so on and so forth. So there are many options that will strengthen the incomes from the agriculture value chain. Then rural economy also gets in a lot of non-farm income. And I think there the investments in public infrastructure have a significant role to play. There is also investment for rural infrastructure. So all that creates jobs. So combination of the investments in the agriculture sector, the agriculture rural infrastructure, as also the infrastructure in the larger economy, the empowerment by digitization. There is also investment on laying fiber optic to villages and remote locations. So all of this do empower the rural economy, and I think it certainly augurs well. Of course, short term, you're right, there is some level of stress, and it's also on account of the large inflation that we have seen, part of which, of course, is transitory. So I'm quite optimistic that it's a matter of time when all this will pick up. I'm very, very hopeful.
Mr. Puri, the other problem, of course, will be of inflation. The union budget, I don't know if it's being brave or not, is factoring in 5% as far as inflation goes, when, of course, in other countries, we're seeing it at multi-decade highs. So as a leading captain of India Inc., one of the stalwarts from India Inc., how do you react to that? Is it a missed opportunity to maybe to rein in inflation?
See, to my mind, the priority has to be about creating livelihoods, enhancing farmer incomes, making the economy competitive, and I think I'm making the economy climate resilient. I think these are the critical issues, and also investing on the welfare of people, also investing on empowering people, providing better facilities, welfare facilities. I think all these issues have been very well addressed in the budget. As far as inflation is concerned, these are all imported inflation. One of the areas, of course, edible oils, and there's a specific focus on edible oils in the budget. And a fair bit of the inflation is also transitory on account of the challenges that various supply chains in the world have gone through on account of high freight rates. So some of it is certainly transitory, will take some time to normalize. Some could also remain. But I think as far as the budget is concerned, I think all the right initiatives have been really dealt with.
Mr. Puri, I know you joined us from CII, but on a lighter note, I'm sure you must also be relieved that there is no increased taxation on sin goods like tobacco. I just finished an interview with the Revenue Secretary, Mr. Tarun Bajaj, who said there was absolutely no scope to increase taxation on an item like tobacco and cigarettes anymore. But since you're talking about generating employment, about how this budget is so smart in increasing expenditure with a long-term goal, as a leading member of India Inc., do you see, whether it is ITC or other leading conglomerates, other companies from India Inc., increasing their own Capex? The government has more than walked the talk now.
As I said, it's bound to happen. You see, the macros for investments have never been as favorable as they are today. There is ample liquidity, lower interest rates, better earnings, better corporate balance sheets. It's merely an issue of capacity utilization enhancing. And in some sectors, you're already seeing investments like metals and so on and so forth. So the moment capacity utilizations pick up, I think investments will happen. And the way to do that is really to kickstart the economy by investments in public infrastructures, which will create jobs. And there is adequate amount of resources allocated to it. In fact, if you look at compared to an earlier era, we're looking at a capital expenditure which is kind of double or maybe even more than that. So all this, and there are a lot of investments for a lot of opportunity on green jobs that can be created. So all of this augur well for consumption. India is a consumption-driven economy. So moment capacity utilization picks up, I think investments will happen. I can also tell you from our own experience, we are at this moment, in fact, in the process of building 5 facilities across various businesses, agriculture and food processing, among others, and packaging. So there is opportunity, and I think you will see more of it over time as consumption picks up. I'm very, very optimistic. I think the budget actually brings immense hope.
And Mr. Puri, because you touched upon, let's say, oilseeds, for example, and you just talked about food processing in another answer, so I thought I would just ask you, do you think companies will also now look more favorably at agriculture, simply because there have been so many announcements around that, whether it is an oilseed mission, to smart warehousing, to the way technology is going to be used? We did hear all of that in the speech.
I'm quite optimistic. And I think the investments in agriculture will only enhance going forward. This is also an area of big opportunity for India. You know, India has rich endowments in agriculture. We have the largest arable land. But so far, our share of course, this year we have done very well on exports. But, still as a share of global exports, of global trade, we may be something in the area of about 3% or so. And we are amongst the largest producer of many commodities. So there is enormous opportunity. And this is a sector where there are tailwinds. The demand will only increase over a period of time. And then there is immense opportunity for value addition. Our value add per unit actually is comparatively lower in India. So tremendous opportunity. And I think with all that is being done to strengthen the agri value chains, make them competitive, improve productivity, quality, digitization helps you bring traceability, implement sustainability practices. And then we need to come together and develop a global positioning for certain clusters with specific attributes. And that will progressively, I think, also take us on a much higher trajectory of exports. So I'm quite optimistic.
It is, of course, this government's stated target, right, to double farmers' income too. Mrs. Puri, another sector that you understand so well is, of course, tourism and hospitality. The finance minister in her budget speech did talk about the pain that this sector is going through, and then it just stopped short at a credit guarantee scheme. There are members of the hospitality sector, including from the CII, who have been quite vociferous with their disappointment. I wanted to ask you about that, because that's a space which is has a multiplier effect.
No, you're right. This space has a multiplier impact on the economy for sure. And it's a sector that has faced a fair bit of stress. However, on the positive side, let me say that in the last quarter, that before the third wave really kicked in, I think the industry had posted a smart recovery. Occupancies were pretty much closer to what they were pre-COVID, though the ARRs had not quite picked up to the same level. And we did see a lot of buoyancy in leisure travel. Business travel had not picked up to the same degree. But with vaccinations and the restrictions being eased as the third wave is also receding, I do feel that this industry will recover again. And as business travel picks up, we will see recovery in the industry. And one of the positives I see is that, you know, in India, the outbound tourism is actually more than the inbound tourism. And during the pandemic, I think a lot of people who might have opted to go for an outbound leisure travel have opted to stay within the country and have experienced the immense opportunity that India offers. So I think over time, it will also give some impetus to greater amount of leisure tourism in the country. And I think the steps that have been announced in the budget of giving a credit guarantee of and earmarking specifically 50,000 crores for the sector is certainly very welcome.
Mr. Puri, you know, my colleague Jayesh Kilnani actually put the finance minister's budget speech on word cloud. And I don't know if you know this, the top 3 words used by the finance minister in his speech today were invest, growth, as well as infrastructure. How will India Inc. read this? How will global investors read this against, of course, the backdrop of that big jump in capital expenditure?
I think it's going to be a big thumbs up. It's going to encourage and inspire a lot of corporates, a lot of India Inc., as well as investors overseas, because of the steps that are being taken to enhance competitiveness of the economy. We're also talking of ease of doing business 2.0. So many positive. And more importantly, you know, the budget reflects a very clear vision. It reflects a consistent strategy, and it's building on the steps announced and the steps and the policies announced by the government over a period of time. Even in the infrastructure space, I think it's not just about merely the fact that the investments have been scaled up, but it's all with a master plan. It's with a very clear vision under the Gati Shakti scheme, which is actually going to create a very competitive and world-class infrastructure. So I think these are very clearly positives. The investments on digital is a big positive. So it's certainly very encouraging.